Thanks, Helen, and welcome to this presentation. I'm going to just go through the presentation. It's a new presentation. We're looking at trying to improve our enhanced community conversations around smoking. So we'll go through that. There's a few bits and pieces where you can add your thoughts to the chat. Any questions, we'll get them at the end. So we'll just go into the first slide. So welcome to the Community Conversations presentation. So a wee bit about myself first. I've got a slide. Oh, here we go. So about me, my name's David Johnston. As Helen has said, I'm a senior health trainer with the Stop Smoking Service, Northumberland County Council. I've been doing that for about 3 years. My main role is community links, although I was a practitioner and I have supported stop smoking one-to-ones and in group settings sort of through my job. My past is sort of 25 years of sport and health and fitness and behaviour change. I've been a big part of sort of rehabbing people in recovery services. That's including physical rehab and NHS, as well as including the services with health coach through alcohol and tobacco. I am passionate, and if you've met me and had conversations with me, you might realise I'm very passionate about building confidence in people so they can achieve their best, so they have a lasting change. Sort of just a basic about sort of what I believe there. I said is the confidence is the gap between where someone is and where they want to be. So it is a key part of my beliefs, and when I speak to people and support people, that's kind of where I go for. Or what I believe in. I think this is a key one. We rarely change because what we're told to, we may act on that, but we rarely change. But with support, we will change. And for every step going forward is a positive and confident change. So before we really start, I want you to imagine you are speaking to someone that smokes. And I want you to think about what would you be your message? So at the present time, what is your beliefs in the stop smoking message? Is it clinical? Is it non-clinical? So what would you say is the key one? What would be your sort of exact sort of first part of that conversation? What would you hope for the outcome? What kind of change would you hope for? And how would you start that conversation? So just even if you want to chat some things and we can go through them and put some in the chat, or you just want to think a wee bit, we can give you a couple of seconds just to sort of think about that. What we're looking at in Stop Smoking is it a direct message we want you to quit and we're telling you to quit, or is it something we're trying to sort of nurture through and get people to think about their smoking? So the key one is, are we trying to deliver a message or create a conversation, or maybe both? We are delivering a message, but how do we do it? And is it through conversation? And that's kind of where this presentation is. How do we go about this? I'm aware people will be familiar with VBAs and MEC, so very brief advice, or the MEC conversation. This goes a wee bit further, or maybe supports it even more, okay? So just have a wee think about that, and if you want to add anything to the chat or ask questions later, we can go into that. So also, can you think of a time where you have been supported or somebody has supported you to make a positive change? And I think that's the key one, that kind of really thinking about what happened in that conversation. So who influenced you and what made the positive change that lasted? So what did they say? How did they make you feel? Why do you listen to them? What actions did you take? And has the change lasted? And that's the key one underneath. Has the key change lasted? If we look at when we're told directly or we're given a quick bit of information, that can only be sort of last for a bit of time. But if you're nurtured and supported, these might just be the ones that last with you. And then it's always key to think, when I was a child or when I was younger or when I started something, but I'm still doing it. How did that happen? Was there an inspiration in my life? And that's what we hope happens when we have conversation with smokers and other people in the community, but obviously with us, it's the smokers, okay? So I just think about the reflection. So how many lasting changes happened because someone listened, encouraged and supported or believed in you? And I think that's the key one. So if we can take that as a personal reflection, a lived experience, can we transform that or be inspired to have a conversation with somebody that maybe needs to change in a way that's positive for their sort of well-being, mental or physical or even financially? Okay. So if we know, if being told what to do is enough, if you think about smokers and the packet of cigarettes they get in the advertising we have, smokers know smoking damages their health. Smoking is expensive. We talk about the cost and how people afford that. They know support is out there. It's a really key one that they know the support's out there. They'll have tried before. There's very few new smokers. There might be new ones that have smoked a while and are ready to do their first trial, but they are aware of the support. There's more and more advertising the support out on the sort of TVs and the media nowadays. And quitting would benefit them. They know quitting would benefit them. So why do smokers still smoke? We've got about, I'll go into the stats, but we have got smokers. We've got quite a lot in Northumberland. So why are they still engaging it? So the discussion you might have with the smokers really interested. You might come across what gets in the way of the change. That conversation initially usually comes as they'll use that as an excuse for how they manage life or a reason how they manage life. I think that's a key one. What matters more than information? So I've got all that information, but actually what would take me to that step where I'm ready to address it as a negative? What roles does stress, habit and identity play? So in their day-to-day life when they're smoking, a lot of this you will hear, and we'll go into that a bit more depth, but it usually is down to stress, or it's a habit I can't break, or it is my identity, okay? And what helps someone become ready? How do we step that forward? So these will be discussions, I think, if you're open to having a chat with a smoker or somebody who's smoking tobacco, is basically what kind of conversation you're willing to have in a light-hearted or a very relaxed manner. There's no expectation of being clinical, but it's just that preparation of what kind of topics might come up when you have that conversation. So the knowledge creates awareness. So we know that awareness campaigns can trigger thoughts, but the conversation creates that possibility. It might sound a bit corny, but those conversations are key to help that direction of awareness. If somebody's aware of their health sort of not improving because of smoking, how can we help that possibility become that they can give up to improve their health? So why community conversation matters? So community conversation, especially in Northumberland, is key. We're in a rural environment. We have stretched services. We can only be in one place for a few hours at a time, whereas communities are permanent, communities last, and they do nurture. So they create a connection at every stage of any journey, whether you've just visited the community, you've just moved in, or you've just started at a venue, as long as you attend it. They provide safe and trusted, non-judgmental support. So that is key, is you're part of something rather than feeling like you're visiting to be given a bit of information and then leave. It can reduce the barriers and increase confidence. So if you're a smoker, or if you are coming in and you have got fear, anxiety, and you've not got the biggest, small steps in the community, nurturing reinforcement will help bring your barriers down and increase your confidence. Keeps conversation beyond the intervention. So our intervention is 12 weeks long. So once that 12 weeks is up, unfortunately, that person is discharged, like most clinical sort of programs. But in a community, we can keep that alive for as long as people are part of that community. So you can kind of support them going forward or through the journey as long as they need that. And we can support the long term. And this is the key one that I want the message to really come across as sometimes it's not about when they're going through the quit. Sometimes it's not about them thinking about stopping, even though that's important. It's when they become smoke-free, how do we maintain that smoke-free, reduce that relapse risk, celebrate them being non-smokers. That is, for me, the key for the community. If we're aware somebody's just quit smoking and they need that support, that's when community support really engages. and it becomes a real strong potential for reduced relapse. So I keep coming up with these strap lines, so forgive me if they do feel a bit corny, but the community service provides something specialist service cannot, and that's important. Everyday contact, trust and continuity before, during and after the stop smoking support or any support. That is the key part of a community strength and basically family, if you want to put it that way. I get a lot of feedback from community venues, facilitators, that is it my place to speak to a smoker? They have a right to smoke, and you're absolutely right, they do. But also we have the right to kind of challenge, in a sense, a behaviour that's causing them harm, causing their well-being to be reduced, and also cause maybe risk to others, not in a very dangerous way, but the risk could be to influence kids to smoke. The risk could be secondhand smoking. The risk could be illicit tobacco. So we do have a place in a community to naturally speak to smokers and be curious, but also kind of maybe say, look, how do you feel about that you're smoking and where you're smoking? So we want it to be a safe and welcoming environment for all. We want to feel that they've got a connection and a belonging and supported, but also everybody else. Advice and practical support is key. That's why we try and get all our cards, our flyers, our posters, and everything that we can promote and support the community with within the venues. So all the support is there to hand. And opportunities to improve well-being. We want to invest in community health. It's one of our big drivers, and we know that somebody giving up smoking has an immediate health impact, a positive one. So that opportunity to improve well-being for the individual and the community is very strong. So sometimes the most important thing we offer is not advice, it's a place where people feel comfortable enough to have that conversation. So it is a place for everybody to have that conversation if somebody's open to it. And this is what we'll go into, is how do we encourage that conversation, okay? So conversations to support change. As I said, and I mentioned before, MEC and VBA are the key ones that are encouraged wherever we go. Opportunistic, motivational, and directive in a sense. We can offer that referral, we can offer the information. The conversation then may stop. It may be with the one that was a one-off, and then we'll never have that conversation again, or it might be 6 months. So what we're trying to encourage is conversation that supports change, which can be lasting, which can be called general banter, but we are going to kind of put it as a stop smoking kind of theme on it. So what I came up with, and I did a lot of looking at sort of systems of conversation, and a wee bit around sort of behaviour change and communication around behaviour change without going into any kind of psychology. I'm not a psychologist. I am a health coach. I encourage change through conversation. So the nudge is the first one. Nudges are nice and simple. They create an awareness of possibility through open and curious conversation. So is that, if you used to get a nudge, would be, did you see that? What do you think? Or how do you feel about that? Or did you notice that? That nudge just gets them kind of going, oh, I wasn't aware of that, or I become aware of my actions. It's a subtle conversation and usually a conversation starter. The support is key. So if we're having support, we're having these conversations, it's about checking in. How did you get on with our conversation? What did you think about that conversation around your smoking? Is there any more we can do with that? What's your thoughts? The support is that ongoing feeling of connection, feeling heard, but there's no pressure. It can be done over a cup of tea. It can be done while they're walking out the door or they've arrived at a meeting 5 minutes early. It's just whenever that opportunity comes in, but it's reinforcing that nudge, reinforcing we've had that conversation and I'm really curious what you thought of it. And then celebrate. I think any step is a celebration. So if it's a positive step forward, it's a celebration, whether the person has turned up without their cigarettes, whether they've cut down to 5 from 10, whether they've picked up the phone and referred themselves in to the point where they are smoke-free, to the point where we've discharged them, they're smoke-free, to the point where they're 5, 10 years down the line. We should always celebrate that achievement, because stopping smoking is one of the hardest things people can do, and they're always on that fine line of relapsing or having that one that they thought didn't have harm. So always celebrating as them as a non-smoker, not an ex-smoker, is for me a key one. So the aim is not to fix someone in one conversation, it's to keep the connection, confidence and possibility alive. So that's the key one, is that ongoing connection with somebody who comes in. If you've got 10 people walking out from a meeting for a tab, do you feel comfortable to go out and have a wee conversation with them? Or do you, when they come in, just ask them how that tab was? Must be the same as years ago, or just get that curiosity going. They'll soon tell you about their cigarette. The good thing about smokers is they do love telling you about their smoking, so there is a great opportunity. So we'll just go into them a wee bit more depth. So just to reinforce, the nudge is to be curious and person-centred, use open questions. If you're not used to reflecting, it's just sort of echoing what you've heard, so they think or they are aware that you're understanding what they mean. So that's all it is. And stay not judgmental. We're not saying you have to quit smoking because we know it's bad for you. That becomes a very judgmental thing from our own perception. We want people to be well. But unfortunately, the modern smoker, or the smoker that's ingrained now in Northumberland, is very, very dependent on that belief that smoking is the thing that gets them through the day or manages it. So it's about that encouragement, opportunities, and finding a way to move forward without the cigarette. The support, again, as I said, is people like to be felt heard, and they like to kind of have that conversation a week later and you to be almost ready to address it and kind of understand or ask them about it. So it's that key natural, human natural sort of curiosity, but also the need to be felt like you actually heard me and you actually care. It's really important. Maintain the community strength. So anybody that's coming in, it strengthens it by them feeling like you're investing in them. Even a small 5 minutes is key for them really feeling like they are part of something. It can reduce the gaps with informal services. For us, we see people either once or twice, once a week or every 2 weeks. So that is really important, that motivational chat, confidence chat is still ongoing within their peers. And we would encourage people to create a sort of good peer group around when they quit, so they can have those conversations. And we want to keep that standard of conversation. So don't up it, don't force it. As I said, smokers will soon come to you when they're ready to quit, or when they're doing something really positive, or even when they're struggling and they just want to have that conversation. To celebrate, as I said, I think this is the key one for all communities. If I had the opportunity, I would send people the 1 year quit cards. We would celebrate as much as we can, but unfortunately that is not a feasible sort of logistic. So if you're aware of somebody that has been long-term quit, celebrate. An ex-smoker or a non-smoker who has smoked will soon tell you what date they quit, will soon tell you how long they've been smoke-free, and they're very proud of it. So it's just reinforcing that, and also kind of recognising if somebody's feeling a bit stressed and tempted, how you can support it and keep that celebration of being smoke-free. So that's key for this type of conversation, is to really embrace that celebration. So just a simple examples, the nudge is nice and simple. Just how are things going? Just wondering if you're still smoking. Has it changed at all recently? So is it getting more expensive? Do you feel more stressed? Less social because less people are smoking? I'm not enjoying it as much. The taste isn't good. So that kind of really triggers an awareness of how they feel around smoking. Then the offer of that continuous smoking. I'm always here if you want to talk about it, or if you want that referral. So that support's there. And then again, that's that great step forward. You know, anything they do forward with the smoking shows they've got power to kind of reduce, or they've got power to stop. We need to really jump on that motivation and try and increase it or maintain it. Okay, so the focus is maintaining connection, confidence and hope, rather than achieving an immediate change. Our service is about the change. Our service is about that immediate action to quit. I think the conversation that I'm trying to encourage for the communities to push that into a step where they start thinking about it, then they can maintain that quit when they engage. So I think that's the key message. So I've talked a lot, so I'm going to give you a couple of minutes, have a drink. I hope people are managing the heat. When you hear tobacco smoking, in about 5 words, again, you can put in the chat or you can write it down or you can just think about it. What would be those words you would think? What would that kind of trigger be? Where are you with that tobacco smoking? And we will talk about, or if we get a chance, or you can ask questions afterwards about perceptions of vaping. There's a wee bit we come into this, but it's the key one is the tobacco smoking. What are the key words that jump into your mind when that word's said? Okay, so I'm going to have a quick swig of water and I'll let you have a couple of seconds. Okay, so the key one is it choice or is it addiction? And I was thinking about when I put this and I was practicing this morning about this. The choice is a really interesting one because the choice is your first cigarette. Your choice is whether it was through pressure or, you wanted to copy somebody or, you just fancied it. That was a choice that was made. And the research is the choice lasts about 14 days. So if you smoke for more than 14 days, it's the addiction that takes over and then you become hooked on smoking. So the key ones are here is we know it's an addiction. If you are a long-term smoker, becomes an addiction. It is not a dependency. It is not a choice. It's an addiction. And that's where we need to really kind of be aware of it. But what part are they addicted to? And that, I think, is the key part. They're not addicted to the tobacco. They're addicted to the nicotine. So if we can remove the tobacco, which are all the toxins and the harm, but maintain the nicotine, a smoker can achieve tobacco-free and still maintain sort of a nicotine support. And that's something that is looked at as, especially with sort of the modern smoker profile, is it's okay to be nicotine dependent for a while, but if you want to be nicotine-free, that's something that we can support as well. So what keeps people smoking? From that addiction, they'll use stress, they'll use habits, they'll use routine, they'll use the social connection, the mental well-being to hide the addiction. Some will say it's a habit, rarely will they say it's an addiction. But if they can understand their addiction is nicotine, hopefully, even if nicotine helps them support through these reasons, we can take the toxins away, we can take the carcinogenics away or reduce them, we can take the tar out of their lungs, we can take the carbon monoxide out of their body, so we can reduce the harm by removing the tobacco, and that's a key sort of part of our service. So as it says there, it's rarely about the tobacco, but the tobacco is the delivery system, and the belief and the power the tobacco has outweighs any other NRT, nicotine replacement, or any other vape or any other tobacco product, because they believe it's the tobacco and it's not the nicotine. Okay, so a few stats just on the back of that then. So the tobacco impacts about 22,000 adults in Northumberland. One of the stats I did miss out was for the second-hand smoking. That means around about 19,000 children are in smoke environments or tobacco environments. So the second-hand smoking and the influence of tobacco is still strong, and about 19,000 children are. So it's quite a big influential figure again. We have about 480, 81, but it's approximately 481 deaths per year from smoking-related disease. The figure of the 3,914, I did look at that again. I haven't changed the slide. The majority is from smoke-related disease, but it's including people who smoke will attend hospital admissions. On that extra wee bit, they also will stay about 1.6 to 2 days longer in hospital because of their smoking. In Northumberland, we have a very good tobacco dependency team in the trust, so they do help support people, but it is treated as a disease now. It is not treated as a dependency or something that people just need supported was because they can't smoke. The illegal tobacco is really key for communities as well. So 1 in 5 smokers will have purchased illegal tobacco. That is generally because of finances, or I know a man that's come from sort of Dubai or been on holiday and brought in some tobacco. But we have people that are taking advantage of the community, taking advantage of youngsters, people that may be financially struggling to sell that tobacco as well. So there is a bit of an issue in the communities about that, that kind of illegal tobacco taking advantage of the communities. And that's something that we do kind of deal with. And that's okay to have an open conversation about that if you feel comfortable. And we do know people with severe mental illness smoke a high prevalence. It's about 42 to 50% of people with any sort of severe mental illness will smoke. That is a big challenge for them. And for us to help them cut down and hopefully become smoke-free is a massive improvement on their health. But we also have to consider now, and it is a big stat, that anybody with a mental health illness is considered a high-risk smoker for relapse because of the stress and the feeling that smoking, the tool, gives them to support their illness. So it is a key open conversation to have with people with any kind of mental illness about their smoking if they smoke. So again, that key one, but behind every stat is a person, a family, and a community. So we know that those stats impact our Northumberland communities through individuals and through the bigger picture of connection with the community. So trusted communities, and I'm aware of my time, so I'm just going to sort of get through a few things. So the trusted communities can reach people that we can or we struggle to. So we've got housing communities, we've got community hubs, which are great. The cafes are tremendous. Voluntary organisations where we should be really proud of what we're achieving. The faith and cultural groups, local clubs and activities, not just the ones that are supported by maybe the public sector, the voluntary sector, pubs, clubs, football clubs. They all have a place in the community, but not just venues. It's about your friend, your family, and your peer networks. Those connections can reach far more people than we can. We do strive, as well as just, in a sense, having our people that can access quite easily our services. We try to reach the socially isolated through rural connections, through the CFIT, through working with people like Angela in the West, the locality coordinators, really important. People living with poor mental health, we work with as many services as we can, from the Andy's Man clubs to the NHS mental health services. We do try and support residents facing financial hardship. So we work with social housing, we engage, and again, we offer the services. Long-term smokers, the ones that have had it a go and not sure if it's for them again, we're always encourage them, but through the community connections, they can be encouraged. People are disengaged from services, so isolated, again, social isolated people in rural areas, but also travellers, homeless, people that have a struggle to engage or have disengaged with services and local areas. The communities will still have that support strength. And those risk of relapse, so the ones that are under stress, that have smoked, that we want to kind of say, we're still here for you. The community support is massive to kind of keep that motivation and support going. Okay, so a lot of the important conversations happen outside clinics, appointments, and formal services, and that is really powerful. It's a powerful tool, and you'll be bored of me kind of saying that. So I'm going to fly through this, but what you might hear, and we've discussed this again, but smokers will give you reasons. Stress, what you might hear is it calms me down. Maybe in a conversation, if you hear stress, take away the cigarette, and what do you hear is stress? Talk about the stress. How can we support you going forward? Routines and habits, it's what I do after meals or breaks. Think about triggers and support and health routines. So, coming to our service, we're getting involved with the health trainers or going for walks after your breaks, but including a club could be massive changes in how they perceive what happens on a break. Social influence, we don't hear that a lot anymore, but everybody around smokes weed. So if you hear that now, it's either generally because they are going to an environment like a social club or a pub, where that's where they smoke, or actually family unit smokes heavily. So it's not just one in the family, it could be quite a few. So again, it's have you got social connections that don't rely on smoking, and how would you feel about engaging with them a bit more? Their identity, so smoking is part of me. That's kind of I've smoked for 30 years. I'm not sure how I would cope. It links in with the stress. So building confidence, support, and kind of just saying, we can do this with or gradually reduce the smoking dependency as we build your confidence. And the fear of change is the massive one. What will I do without it? As I said, the tobacco has convinced people it is part of their life. But if we can break that through our support of giving people nicotine replacement, but also in the community, giving people steps of change and support makes a massive difference. So that's maybe common ones you'll hear, but you might hear quite a few more. The perception to maybe explore with adults, especially smokers, is their belief that smoking is less harmful than vaping. It's become a bit of a mixed message from our service. If you smoke, vaping is far more beneficial for your health. It will reduce your health harms. That used to be 95%. That is not used now, but we know it significantly reduces the harm, because it takes away the tar, because it takes away the carbon monoxide. So having that educational talk with people who smoke about vaping is key, but also having that open conversation about people who vape that have never smoked, about their beliefs. And again, that can be around about stress, habits, social influence. So it's really interesting how you could have that conversation around changing their sort of need for the vape. So your role, conversation, notice the opportunity. So use everyday contact. There's always an opportunity. Listen and explore. Have conversation with people and listen to what they're saying. Even if you're just listening to a few smokers, sometimes that's a really interesting conversation. Use the nudge, support, and celebrate. That's a great tool that I hope you will be ready to adopt. And then connect when invited. So when somebody asks, can you put a referral in for me? It feels very natural for that person. How the community conversation will help us. Basically, you can reach more people earlier. So you are a trusted community that can have that outreach that may be a case of one that we can't reach, or we fail to reach, or we just haven't got it right. We can increase the readiness by having that conversation. So you can help us by just building that readiness so people are feeling more confident. The connect, your referral is more natural. It's not forced. It's nothing that is not been asked for. The motivation has been increased. And you stay with the person, so that person will feel appreciated that you're there supporting that engagement. So the community service create opportunities for change, and we basically supply the specialist support. And I think that's a great combination. What we offer is contact. So if it's not a self-referral, if you send a referral, we'll contact that person direct by phone. If they don't answer, we will do a follow-up letter to invite them to access it. You could maybe even chase that up in a conversation a couple of weeks later and make sure that they have got that referral. The advisors are all professionals. They're practitioners, actually. They're very professional, very good at their job, lots of experience, and will go through the appropriate support. The traditional nicotine replacement, the vape is there for support. We have got medication now. So it'll all be down to the screening and what the person wants. So it's very bespoke. And the 12-week support is there for behaviour change through face-to-face, telephone. We can just CO monitor, which is a really good tool for accountability to help smokers see their health improve there and then. So that's the support we offer in brief. I'm pretty sure everybody will kind of know, and if not, just ask for more information. So the one partnership, and I'm just checking my time, it's not far off it. So together we can create a nudge, we can create support, we can celebrate. The community does that with a natural flow, and we do that through the clinical support. And together that should be a good partnership that basically supports people, not just short term, but as a champion in service through the community that offers a long-term solution to say, we want to be smoke-free, and we celebrate your achievement and we appreciate it. And I think that's a key one. And this is their vision. I didn't go into it, but basically the government wants a smoke-free generation, and this is the motivation to drive this conversation. It's not me being selfish saying, I need the communities to talk more about smoking. If you imagine now you don't want to see your grandkids or your children smoking, how do we stop that? We stop that from seeing the influence that's already out there. We learned as kids to smoke from watching parents or tellies or professionals smoking in front of us, and we picked that up. But to improve the healthier lives, to increase more money for families, to increase that stronger community and a better future, we need to drive this as an informal or a formal conversation that really empowers people to make a change. And that's hopefully not too strong a wording, but this is what we're aiming for, and it is the government's plan. So it's a big push for our service to kind of get that happening, hopefully in the next 10 years. So I wanted to leave with this, was think about maybe when you leave here, that one person you might see in a community, the one person you might see in your venue, the one person that you know is a friend or family member, somebody that may benefit from that conversation, may struggle with change, somebody that you might want to just have a wee go at the nudge, not as practice, just to see if we can get an engagement through the, I'm not going to lecture you about smoking, I'm just really curious about it and what it gives you. My last slide I was very proud of, and I want you to kind of maybe think we could have this up in any sort of impact notice board, or just as to remember that not every conversation creates change, but every conversation creates possibility. The small conversations create the big impacts. It's not always about the fear mongering, it's sometimes about the check-ins and see how people get on. And that is the end of the slides, and I'll hand back to Helen for any questions.
Thank you for that, David. That's really great. Yeah, so there's actually lots to think about there. I was just kind of thinking about, because we do obviously a lot of information and signpost, and I think sometimes when you have fleeting interactions, it might be a bit more difficult to, sort of do that making every contact count approach. But actually, sort of what you're saying is, I guess, those informal conversations, particularly in communities, sort of where relationships are being built, it's sort of doing that without sort of lecturing people, isn't it? It's kind of being curious, as you say, sort of creating inroads and making that initial conversation. So there's a couple of questions, or a question already that I'll read out. I don't know if you'll know this, but you might be able to tell us, what's the average age of a smoker? Do we know if it's getting older, or are younger people getting into smoking tobacco, or is it more vapes now?
I think that there's a high prevalence of young males between 25 and 40 who are in a certain workforce, a sort of manual labour workforce. They have a high prevalence. So the younger generation are generally that. There is a slight tweak. I don't have the stats, that there is fear that smoking is going to become more popular because of the misconception around vaping. And there was a fact that it comes from America, that kids consider tobacco more healthier than vapes because one's natural and one's man-made. So the fear is that might come forward, but that I will confirm through stats. Our average age is still sort of retirement, with sort of over 40s. You have the problem with the younger generation still feeling invincible. But because we've got the stop smoking medication, a lot of the youngsters are actually starting to engage with that now. So I can get the stats, but yeah, the main population we're looking at is the young males, sort of between 25 and 40, and how we engage with them.
Great. And someone's asking about a referral criteria available online. So that's for the Stop Smoking service. Is it kind of anyone and everyone over a certain age, or is
As
the
long as you smoke over, now I'm going to get this right, we are over 18 because we have sorted, but we will, I think for smoking we can support a wee bit younger, but that will be just sort of screened as we go. We have supported younger, but because sorted have come in as the sort of youth section, we would probably refer or forward it to them. So anybody over 18 will get support. And as long as they're smoking, we get a lot of vapors coming through. We will have a conversation about vaping, but at the moment we don't have that current sort of framework to support them long term with any kind of medication or behaviour change like we can with the smokers.
Yeah, of course. So referral wise, is it just contacting by telephone, email? Are you on
Absolutely.
frontline?
So we can do through Frontline. We have a direct referral process through Frontline. Self-referral is really powerful, and I think in communities that's the way I would get to do it. If the person is highly motivated, make sure we've got cards, they can phone direct, and we're running as best we can. If they phone in the day, we'll try and see them as soon as possible. And when we say as soon as possible, we'll try and see them on the day if we can, i.e. phone them. It doesn't have to be face to face, but if they can make a clinic, it's far more impactful than a phone service. But we can start them off over the phone very quickly.
Fab. And do we have the contact details in the pack that we sent out, or can we get those?
I'll get them to you. I didn't put that
Sent?
in that, but I have a slide with that. But I'll get all that sent to you. I'll do a digital. I've got digital flyers with all the details that we can
Oh,
share if
fabulous.
you want.
If you can share that with us, we can make sure that that goes out straight away as well with the
Not a
slides.
problem.
Another questions around the government. Has it enacted its legislation to increase the age at which tobacco can be sold? And do you think this will help a smoke-free generation?
I think they have enacted it now. I'm loving these. I'm getting challenged. I wasn't prepared for these. Mark, my manager, might be sitting back. So they have enacted it, and I think it will benefit because it will be harder for people to access it, and maybe that will be something that the generations just get bored of even worrying about how I get illegal or on dodgy stuff, or how do I go and get somebody to get me tobacco. So I do think it'll be a massive one. If I'm right in saying, I'm not right in saying, I'll have to look it up, but it's from anybody that's 16 now should never be able to buy tobacco. So anybody from 16 now, I think, should never be able to buy tobacco, but that I may be wrong slightly on that. So I think we're driving the possibility of getting tobacco from shops away. We have to be really switched on with illicit tobacco, and we have to be strong in the communities to say this will peak probably, this will come in because people will want to push it still. So I think that's a responsibility all communities have, that the illicit tobacco does not get a grip for the generations. But the less we smoke around kids, the less they will learn that it is a habit. We only learn it because we watched. So if we can reduce that, we won't see smoking, hopefully, in the future.
Yeah. And what are the obviously there's behavioural change and obviously, sort of support to have healthier habits potentially. But you mentioned medication. Is there sort of
Yeah.
specific medication available for sort of stopping smoking now?
Yeah, so we've got two medications at the moment. There's varenicline, which was Champix. Now, Champix was out and about and was very successful. There was a couple of sort of stories hit the headlines, and it was taken off the market. We know it's all been tested. We know it's come back and it's very safe for the majority of people that use it, but they are screened. So varenicline is very powerful. It's very good for stopping smoking. A lot of smokers like to use it. They know it works. The other one that's just come out is cytosine.
Right.
It basically is a herb or a plant-based medication. It's a wee bit bigger sort of amount you have to take each day, shorter course, and it's very popular in Europe, and it's just come over here, and it's pretty good as well.
Yeah. No, that's it, isn't it? And I think obviously you said, there's the vapes as well, and
Yeah.
I think anything that, sort of can be done to try and bust some of the myths around, obviously we don't necessarily know the long term, I'm guessing, but as you say, it is healthier for people who smoke to vape.
Yeah.
Anything that can be done to bust the myths there, because I think I've heard that as well. People sort of saying, well, actually, they would be worried about, just as worried about vaping as, continuing to smoke. So another question, you may or may don't, and obviously don't feel pressured to answer this if you feel that it's not within your remit, but one of the questions is, do you think it would be an idea to limit the availability of tobacco to certain licensed shops, or would you think that would just kind of push that underground?
I probably, I mean, I can give you my own opinion, but it's from the service point of view, it's something I wouldn't be able to kind of answer. I think we have to have the freedom because it's still a legal product. So I think it's a licensed legal product. So I think that goes down to, as long as they adhere to the rules and they can sell it, I think that's okay. But it's the illicit tobacco that's a real problem. And we do have a real good trading standards Elliot who does a great job with the police shutting that down. But it's a small group. So I think more the focusing on the illicit stuff rather than actually the license is key.
Yeah, and as in the age, as you say, is kind of
Yeah.
yeah.
It'll naturally phase out, especially the cost as well. I think the cost is going to go just even higher and higher. So I think we are hitting a point where people really do come in, and that's the main driver at the moment is the cost. Yeah.
That's interesting because we all know, as we've, there's lots out there in the news about the cost of living, and we've all, felt, so the pressure of cost of living as well. So that's not necessarily a, so surprise at all. No, that's really great. Has anyone got any last minute, sort of questions to pop in the chat? I was kind of interested because you obviously do a 12-week or an up to 12-week, sort of support and intervention. Is there like a follow-up, sort of within that? So do we know how many people are like long-term, sort of, or is it sort of just monitored at the end of that 12-week period?
So yeah, we capture the 4-week quit. So the person, we capture that as the official kind of quit or not quit. The 12 weeks is to help people kind of build their confidence and really ingrain that behaviour change and make themselves feel really that they're ready to leave. We don't have the capabilities at the moment or the capacity to do the longer term, but we are looking at it because we know relapse is massive. And probably if we managed to relapse, those figures probably would drop quite dramatically because we wouldn't have the returning people that are struggle after that. So the 12 weeks is really good. But after 6 months, we do have a lot of returners, or after a year. So it's a case of trying to support that. That is why I am championing the celebration and celebrate people being quit. If you come across somebody that says, I've just quit, you make the biggest fuss of their life just to make sure that they know they've empowered themselves.
Yeah. And I guess that relapse, sort of as you say, shouldn't be a scenario where it's then just actually, sort of give up, sort of go back on the cigarettes. It's actually, it's natural, isn't it? To, sort of
part of the process. But as soon as they relapse, they can come back in our service. As soon as they are part of taking up the smoking, we don't say you can't come back. If they're struggling and they're back on the cigarettes, even after a few weeks, we'll bring them back and have those honest conversations again. I am doing something new, which we are piloting. It's called Prepare to Quit. So a lot like the nudge system is basically have that conversation and maybe build up the confidence before they go for the quit attempt. Break down the barriers, break down their beliefs around the tobacco versus nicotine. So Mary Yates, who I'm a big fan of, who's a big advocate and a very good professional in the stop world smoking, she's now saying, love your nicotine, get rid of your toxins. And I think if people still feel the need that nicotine, as long as they're getting rid of the toxins, it's key.
Yeah. No, that's really fantastic. Thanks for that, David. It's been really
No
good
worries.
to have that overview. So yes, as promised, if you get that information about the service out to us, and anything else that you think might be useful, if you've got any links on the website that sort of are specific to tips, you know, of
Yeah.
giving, I guess, because there will be people on this call who maybe smoke themselves or know people who smoke, or are working with people who smoke, or supporting them. So anything that you think, you know, might help to give them those tools as well would be great. I'll
No,
just see if there's
absolutely.
anything else coming in. Yeah, so just a reaffirmation that, you know, sort of I really get David's messages about people starting smoking when they see others smoke. Nudge, support, celebrate feels like a great message to engage communities with. So that's a lovely, you know, sort of message to
Yeah.
end on. So thank you so much, David, for coming and giving up your time
No
today to
worries.
talk to us. And thanks to everybody on the call for giving up part of your afternoon. I know it's really hot. So hopefully you'll, you know, sort of being able to keep cool. And thank you all. And I hope that you all have a fantastic weekend.
No, much appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Cheers.